My goodness, the world has changed. My recent travels to both hemispheres were stark reminders that the pace is really on. It took 200 years before we knew the effects of the Industrial Revolution. The technology boom has done as much in little more than 10 years, and its effect on our sport has been profound. Last year, we lamented the intrusions of venture capitalists on the ethos of the game. And I still haven't come across anyone who lost his voice cheering for a mutual fund. South Africa's tradition of horse racing is as proud as anyone's and dates to the 1800s, long before General Smuts was running horses, though he had a pretty good string too. If there's a sense to the turf, it's more than economic sense. In the end, it's an affair of the heart. Living on hope, lovely, irrepressible hope, open to the rich and the not so rich, where the rich are often just hours away from disaster, and the latter believe their next 5,000 rand horse will be in a Gugu.
200 to go, Gugu comes to the front, and are we seeing a champion in the making? Gugu goes on to win the Joburg Fillies and Mares Spring Challenge. Gugu for Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa Al Maktoum, and here it is, Gugu, she's princess of the turf. Gugu wins the Gauteng Fillies Guineas. She's got the South African Fillies Classic Field stone cold. Here is the horse as priceless as an uncut diamond. Gugu, she's the queen of the turf. Gugu wins by 7 lengths.
Get the feeling that she's pining for some globe trotting. Gugu going to win by 6 lengths.
The domestic market for thoroughbreds has been remarkably resilient by international standards. Yet this year was always going to be the acid test. The biggest crop of yearlings in recent times conceived of service fees that were headed for the moon. Stallion managers, carried away by a rampant economy, had forgotten there's a tipping point where you get nothing if you pile on the burdens. The customer always has a choice. Capital can go on strike. Atlas can shrug. But we've taken the medicine, and we need to retire the belief that this is how things are. We're breeding for the 2014 market now, and service fees have developed a sense of sobriety. This is the time for enterprise. Climb in while the going's good, and grab the benefits of a rationalized market with both hands.
An opportunity for the country's leading breeder, Summerhill Stud. They bred the winner of the Fillies Guineas and also the Colts Guineas on the same day, and no wonder they're the top breeders.
It's like winning the lotto, isn't it? He suddenly bought a horse for 60,000. This is a £1 million race,
and they've got a champion race.
Pierre Jourdan is in the middle of the course, and he's looking to close him down. Pierre Jourdan going for all he's worth. Pierre Jourdan's going. He's going all the way. He will not be denied. It's Pierre Jourdan. He's home and he's won it here. Pierre Jourdan, the winner. What a tremendous victory.
One thing's for sure. By the time this year's foals go under the hammer, the world will be back on its feet. And there's little sense in being anything but an optimist. That's why we've continued to scour the racecourses of the world for the best sire prospects, so that South Africa's momentum as a producer of world-class racehorses can be kept on the front burner. We word slingers have been retailing some pretty rich comparisons of late, but it's difficult to conceive of two more appealing animals than Visionaire and Bankable.
I've been around horses since I first drew breath, and while you want to be careful when claiming best, I can't honestly remember two grander looking individuals.
Both continue our obsession with racing class and with the potency of the Mr. Prospector male line, but that's where the parallels end. His achievements against global stars of the ilk of Ravens Pass, Passage of Time and Eagle Mountain hinted at a budding career at the top level in England. But local fans will tell you, it was in Dubai that Bankable earned his celebrity aura.
Racing in the El Fahidi Ford and Ibn Khaldoon, slow to move. Bankable second last, and Ibn Khaldoon will come from the tail as they swing the bend. Bankable and Mbongi are starting to sweep down the outside. Bankable, the widest runner, raced up, 150 to go. Bankable lunged, oh gee!
A record of group victories from 6 furlongs to 9 was astounding enough. Yet it was his habit of grabbing victory from the jaws of defeat that took our breath away.
Here's Bankable coming from last. Bankable storming down the centre. Conveyance in front of Force Freeze. The class is telling. Bankable swoops 50 metres out, grabs the lead, draws clear. Bankable.
Visionaire, on the other hand, plied his trade in the land of the free. And his trail of destruction against the cream of his generation in the summer of 2008 was matched only by George Washington's in the War of Independence. This was a tornado of enormous proportions. A horse who gave hope that if the trip was within reach, Barbaro would not be the last of Michael Matz's Kentucky Derby heroes.
Visionaire is coming, and Visionaire is coming quickly.
You can write what you like about Visionaire's supremacy in America's great stallion maker. But unless you've hit the rewind button for the King's Bishop a couple of times, words can never quite do him justice.
A wild charge into the stretch here in the King's Bishop, and Visionaire has run by the entire field. He was 10 lengths behind him entering the far turn, and on the wire, Visionaire with a dramatic lap the first win.
Those that have the t-shirts know the adage, big, brave, brilliant, and that it belongs to history's first $3 million foal, Brave Tin Soldier.
It would be an affront to ask the most famous judge of a racehorse what possessed him to pay such a price for an animal of just a few months. But when his victory in the Blenheim Stakes as a juvenile earned him a short-priced quote for the next year's guineas, Brave Tin Soldier paid tribute to one of the sexiest pedigrees in the business and wiped the sweat from Demi O'Byrne's brow too.
Finish, Brave Tin Soldier going on from Invincible Force. Basroy is third, and fourth home is Flash McGowan.
Then the fairy tale continued with his comeback in the cliffhanger, pinning a VC on the second B of the t-shirt.
A rally from Kiss the Kid on the outside, but here comes Brave Tin Soldier. Brave Tin Soldier, a frontal lunge on the outside. Brave Tin Soldier, Brave Tin Soldier! Up in time for Carlos Marquez Jr. in a cliffhanger.
They'll all tell you it's the exception that proves the rule. But with AP Indy and his dynasty, that's not the case. While other pretenders long ago cried no contest for the title of Emperor, it's a strange quirk that without exception, AP's best sire sons are from Mr. Prospector Lion mares, so the portents for AP Arrow are strong.
A good proportion of the best young sires in the States carry this brand, yet few of them can match our fellow for racing class.
Down to the final furlong they come. 8 Piero's on the inside with a nose. Brass Hat driving on the outside. 8 Piero just there from Brass Hat. 8 Piero, Brass Hat, 8 Piero.
It never ceases to amaze us how much of a role fashion plays in the formulation of our breeding practices.
The best endowed races on our calendar are at 2,000 meters and beyond. Yet the dictates of the sales ring appear too often to occupy the forefront of our plans. Logic tells us that to win these races, you need to produce the type that gets every yard of the trip. Hence the presence at Summerhill of Admire Main.
As the only son of Sunday silence on the African continent, he already occupies a unique place in our sport. But as one of the top trio of racehorses of his generation, his real attraction must lie in the thought that 6 of the top 10 sires in his native Japan are also sons of one of the most desirable influences in the world. Mullins Bay was the first horse to fulfill my childhood ambitions of competing against the biggest owners in the world at the world's biggest race meetings.
That he was able to repay much of his considerable cost in the process was a welcome bonus. But his foals are telling us he has much more to give. Ask our colleagues which young stallion is likely to be our next big sire, and most will tell you, Mullins Bay. That's why in his 3rd season, he was even more popular than in his first 2.
The same can be said of Ravishing, whose first youngsters greet the auctioneer in 2011, and whose excellent book in his 3rd season tells us all that needs to be told.
Much has been said and written about Waterfall in a long and distinguished career.
Nickman is coming out strongly. Count Express is down the inside, and Arabian Mist is coming out late. Nickman, Arabian Mist, here comes Arabian Mist as one of its nation.
That he was able to bother the judges as often as he has when it comes to the National Stallion log is a compliment to a horse who was always at a disadvantage when it came to numbers.
His prominence as a getter of stakes winners again this season reminds us just how good a stallion he's been, and what a valuable source he is for class, soundness and speed, the fundamental requirements of a good thoroughbred. Cahal was always going to be on the back foot in 2011 with a loss to Export of 2 of his 3 Group 1 winners of last season. That he remains in the top 5 sires in the land without them is testimony to his ability to get quality racehorses in depth.
The first runners from his better books conceived of his elevated fees are now at the races, and there's little knowing where he could end up in the next season or 2.
Behind that, but Fasani has the advantage from Queens Bay, and Elderian Fasani is going to win it.
Noble Air hits the front the last 100, and Noble Air, this is a big victory.
There's no need to sell you the notion that innovation rules these days, nor the idea that Summerhill is a self-made operation built on the enterprise and the energy of a remarkable team, has been a world leader in this sphere. But before I take the wraps off our latest venture in education, allow me to share a perception about the value of the horse in the broader scheme of what is called the industry.
Racing has large bookshops in various parts of the world which do a heady trade in horse books. Few have to do with betting. They are about the horse. Our friends in the lottery and casino sectors are so envious, they're thinking of opening their own, selling all the books ever written on their business. The problem is, the rental on the telephone booth is yet to be negotiated. The short message is, the future of the turf deserves and demands our attention if it is to maintain its pace with the rest of the world. South Africa has at last earned the respect of the community of racing nations for the quality of its horsemen. Our jockeys have dominated the Hong Kong title for 18 of the past 19 years. Our trainers bestride the racecourses of the globe, and they've done it often enough with South African breds. Summerhill's elevation to the top of this country's breeding affairs is attributable to 5 principal pillars. As important as any, the investment we've made in our people. The opening of our School of Management Excellence commemorates the life of the late Sheikh Maktoum. It's the finest facility of its kind in the world, and the only one on a stud farm. It is a mysterious reality of our sport, patronized by the wealthiest of the wealthy, that there should be such a dearth in the educational institutions serving it. No country has a need for a facility like this more than South Africa, and no community deserves it more. Finally, a word to our smaller breeders. Many of you have been doing business with Summerhill for more than 30 years now. We started out on a handshake, and that's still the way we do business. We've never forgotten. Transactions build turnovers, but relationships build value.
There's Igugu, the favourite. Igugu's raced up into second. Then comes Galileo's Destiny and Superstorm with Blackwing. Igugu, the filly's just waiting at the rail. And Igugu comes into the lead. Igugu, Big City Lights coming on. Pierre Jardin, Balsara. Igugu and Pierre Jardin over the last 100 English Garden. But Igugu's going to win it. And Igugu has won the motorcom from Pierre Jardin and English Garden. What a win!
We know times have been tough, but it's no use giving up now. After all, racing and breeding are the land of dreams, where kids from the sticks like us can make a name for themselves. The small man can prove his worth, where hope and courage and sometimes perfection can be found. And to those who've chosen the liberty that comes from the freedom to choose your stallion, rather than stand one, remember the words of Margaret Thatcher. The cocks may crow, but it's the hens that lay the golden eggs.